Shuchat with the Shuchat Group-Sutton Westcoast Realty and parkbench.com. And we are in Richmond, British Columbia, and I'm talking to my clients, Cindy and Andrew Hirschberg Schon. Kind of. There's an extra name in there. Anyways, these folks are making a huge move from Richmond back to Toronto. And I thought that's pretty stressful. If you guys think moving is stressful and getting the kids ready for school is stressful, well, imagine moving across the country now where you can't even check out where you're moving to and having to figure out how to get a home there, and COVID and everything else, and airplane tickets and new jobs and remote learning and remote working. So I just thought we'd have a little chat because it's an amazing experience, both coming and leaving, and to find out what it was all like, because I think you're here how many years now?
We've been here for 6.5 years. So we came to Vancouver on a relocation for work. And it was exciting and new. We came with both of us, obviously, and we have 2 children who at the time were 16 and 11. And, we thought, hey, moving in the summer would be a great time to move. Kids are off school. But we forgot the one place you meet kids for kids is in school. So for them, that first summer was really challenging because they didn't know, how to meet people. We were really lucky, though. We had friends that had moved out here 20 some odd years ago that we reconnected with. And they were so integral in us finding a home here, finding schools for the kids, the right area that I guess they thought was a great area, which it was here in Richmond, close to Steveston. And it really made it a soft landing for us. It was definitely challenging because everything is done long distance. And now, of course, we're being relocated back to Toronto. And during COVID, it's even more challenging because, of course, everything is restricted. We're trying to buy a house long distance with our agent in Toronto, going through a home with, FaceTime with us on a phone. The market is a little bit crazy because of COVID. And, of course, all the restrictions that everybody has.
Guess what? The person who bought your home bought it off a TV camera,
Yes,
bought it off an
right.
iPhone with the gimbal housing. So it's going to be, that'll be done remotely.
Yep.
So thank God for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank God for the technology because we've been able to keep in touch with family in Toronto. When we move back to Toronto, we'll be able to keep in touch with friends here. It's so important that now we do have Zoom because if this were 10 years ago, it would have been a very different situation.
So here's a question. This is probably coming into most people's minds. You move to a new city. It's stressful, that you can bury your head into work. How long did it take you to feel part of a community that you might have had a few friends here, but just do a deep dive?
We were really lucky because we did have a few friends here and they actually happened to know each other just by fluke. And, there's something to be said about like 7 degrees of separation. We ended up knowing a few people. We were invited to a couple barbecues through that first summer where we met their friends and we became quite close with people quite quickly.
I think what was important was the area that we moved to. Like we really researched that, and Richmond was an excellent opportunity to live near some of the people that we knew. We don't have much family here, so I have one cousin here in BC, downtown Vancouver. But yeah, this whole area of Richmond was a great community, and we were able to really connect with people here in the community and make friends here in the community.
1 month?
Probably through that summer, so say 2 months.
I would say over the summer into the fall.
It was pretty quick because again we at least had that one connection here, and then it became that spread through where she introduced us, or both those people introduced us to their friends. So. And
what were the activities that you did in whether your hobbies? What things made it really easy for you to sort of all of a sudden, think that you lived here your whole lives?
Well, for me, I joined a team to ride for cancer, doing the Ride Across Canada for Cancer. And it was a great opportunity. I hadn't ridden a bike since I was 16.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it and got to know people on the team. We rode from Vancouver to Seattle, which was 140 kilometers
for
over
charity,
a weekend for charity for cancer. And I've done that for the last 4 years now. And so we have a very close-knit group with the ride. And it's our friends. So,
we kind of both took up cycling when we came to BC, which was a great
You guys should have thought of raising money by riding back home to Toronto by bike. If you think about it, you've done it 4 times.
a long
You
trip.
would have made it. You would have made it to Edmonton.
That would be
a little bit different
multiple
ride.
month trip. Yeah.
So that was one. That's a huge one, right? I mean, it really bonds you with a lot of people. A lot of high fives at the end of that day, right?
Yeah.
What else? I know. I know the answer, and I'm dying to hear it.
I was always involved in community theater. So after probably about a year of being here, I finally got the nerve to sort of find the community theater.
I don't even think it was that long. 6 months, 9 months,
Maybe, yeah. And I went out for a couple of roles here, and that is a very close-knit group of people throughout several different sort of groups that I performed in. And I was able to become part of that culture and perform on stage in several different shows. And I just adore it. So I've been very lucky in that opportunity to be able to be part of that community and group and really enjoy it and have my friends support me in coming to see it as well as my family. So,
You know
yeah.
what's cool about that? She's not reading the reader board right now. She's doing this all off the cuff. That's
I think
great.
also because you're in the fashion industry is pretty close knit in Canada.
Sure.
It's a very small niche kind of community, and everyone kind of knows everyone else. So even if you're just working in Toronto, but a lot of people have done the back and forth of working in Toronto and working in Vancouver.
Absolutely.
And there are people that you kind of know, or again, it's that playing the six.
Yeah.
The six.
You're lucky.
Well,
six
the funniest thing is that one of the
6
companies
degrees
I
of
worked for
separation.
here was my manager also in Toronto. So when I went for an interview and walked in the room, I knew this person well. She did my manager in Toronto, and suddenly she was here in Vancouver, and she was my manager here in Vancouver. So
Yeah.
it really is a small
Yeah,
industry.
it's kind of funny how the small world thing happens over and over again, but it does, especially in things like the fashion community and the theater, the regional theater, amateur theater community. It
Yeah.
So,
helps.
if you haven't figured it out, these two are pretty social people. And it probably was a bit of a shock to them when I told them the first thing in instructions between client, realtor, don't tell anybody you're moving. Because they couldn't tell anybody at the office they're moving. It's kind of, there's this little secret zone where things are a little unsure during discussions. And you sort of got to hold all that in. That's a stressful thing because you got to look people right in the face and pretend nothing's changed, right? How's that for
That
some?
was definitely very hard. I mean, it made it challenging, and I would slip. I'd write something on Facebook, and Anya would say, "Hey, Cindy, could you delete that?" Or, we tried to keep it as quiet. We even were on a Zoom call with some mutual friends in Toronto, and one of the girls said, "Oh, congratulations!" And I was like, "Oh," because they weren't supposed to know. And so we really tried to keep it on the down queue. As much as we could.
Well, there's some work confidentialities as well, but so we had to wait a certain amount of time before we could say anything.
Yeah,
but
for that one too.
yeah.
I remember when we moved out, because we moved out, I think, in '92 from Montreal. If you start telling people you're moving, and you're moving away, they kind of write you off socially sometimes because, and this is without COVID, right? We're all written off right now. This is my social life. So. And so you have that to deal with too. You don't want to let it go too early, and you don't want to offend people who's starting to bring you into their lives, right? So it's there's a bit of tactics going on, and in that what happens is the time that you get to talk about it is compressed between the time you've made the decision, publicize it, and not gotten around to talk to people. So
totally.
one of the things we want to do here today is allow Cindy and Andrew to say goodbye to some of their friends, and hopefully we'll edit this interview. We won't need too much editing. We'll edit this interview, and you could send it around, and just there's things that you'd like to say to everybody in different groups, and I know you're not going to have a chance, and it's going to dawn on you in 40 days from now that you've gone, for whatever period of time, and you didn't get to say goodbye to somebody, and you want to, and you're going to be calling from Toronto. So what do you want to tell people that you've come close to
Unfortunately,
here?
I think there's going to be a lot of people that we're not going to be able to see before we go, simply because of COVID, which is so heart-wrenching, because I so want to be able to see all my dear friends, if that's from my circle of friends, my theater community, my work community, to be able to give a great big hug and say, see you soon. And because of COVID, we're not going to be able to do that. There's nothing I'd love more than to have, a hey, going away party. And that's not going to be possible. So I think what I really want to be able to say to all of those dear people, dear friends, is thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your lives.
I'm fogging up here.
And let me
Thank you for letting us.
That's okay. Hey, that's what life's about, right?
Thank you for letting us be part of your lives. Thank you for letting us be welcomed with open arms into all facets of our lives, and including us in so many wonderful experiences and be part of your lives. And it's something that we will hold dear to our hearts forever. We don't regret coming here. In fact, we cherish the time we've had here. Our children made lifelong friends. We've made lifelong friends. And it's so hard to say goodbye during normal circumstances. Never mind during COVID.
Now, when this all lifts and people start traveling again, there will be a place where they can pick up bagels near your house when they come visit, right? In Toronto?
In Toronto, of course.
You're going to leave a forwarding address for everybody that stop by?
Yeah.
Right?
We'll ship you Toronto bagels from there.
So,
We'll have a new business.
what was the most memorable, and without offending anybody who could have come in second place, what was the thing that just was, what was like the biggest high for you when you're here? You know, it's interesting. You had a similar experience than I did. I got off the plane, and the first thing I found out was that they were doing plays over at the shul, and it was musical. And I said, I really feel like playing drums, except I've only played at my brother's house and watched. I could probably pull this off. And they just mentioned it. Someone says, well, what do you play? I said, well, I could play drums. And the next day I got a phone call. Someone went to an open house and said they just saw a brand new set of drums and the people are moving back to China.
Oh.
An hour and a half later, they were in my garage. They were in my house, and I belonged to a musical group, and that's it. It just started like you take more guts when you want when you go to a new place, right? Expands your horizons, and it. If you were sitting at home in Toronto, you might not have tried half the things that you did because you were included in groups. It just
Totally. I would not have done the Ride to Conquer Cancer, I don't think. Although my brother-in-law and my niece do the Ride to Conquer Cancer in Toronto, which I'll be joining now. I don't know if I would have had the courage. I think here, the group of people I was with, we were all starting out at the same time. We all supported each other. And it was more about having fun than, how many minutes it took you to do a kilometer or whatever that might be. So I think for me, I can't have one thing, to be honest, to pick to say that's the highlight. There were so many. And it's like when you're looking through slides or pictures in a photo album that, those thoughts or memories come to you one at a time because they are so special, each in their own experience. We were so lucky to know people here. We were so lucky to connect and create a community here that will be lifelong friends. Highlights for me would definitely be the Ride to Conquer Cancer, the friends we have, being on stage and performing in some unforgettable performances.
You know what's cool about that? Because you didn't do a ride like that, and you've never done it. So not doing something that you never thought you could do just moved you up in your own personal self-estimation, right? It's a growth experience. And if you've never been on stage in a play or whatever, that's big too. And each time you do it, it's just, you get better at it.
Yeah, you know what, and I think that it's just those things, those experiences that make life worth living, never to be afraid to take a chance because you don't know what's on the other side. I didn't know what it would be to come to Vancouver. I didn't know what my family would experience when they moved with me or how my children would, make friends. But we took a deep breath and we decided it was worth the risk. And my 99-year-old grandmother told me she was proud of me for taking that risk, and it meant so much because as much as people love you, it's hard for them to let you take that risk and move to another place. And even though it's still within the same country, 5,000 kilometers away, it's a big difference.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
When we moved out here in '92, it was like $160 a month for long distance on a landline. Now it's included. It's probably the same thing, but you're doing it for everyone in your family. No, I think every phone almost includes free long distance across the country.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like so long ago, but it was the beginning of a marriage. And so on the business side of things, I just want to know if you remember, I said to you, if we price this property right,
Yeah.
how many people will have to come through the door? Usually come through the door before I get an offer for you. And I said it might be a little bit different because of the way this house is located. Do you remember that number?
The actual number of
I said, how many
price?
people do you think I'm going to have to we're going to have to show this house to before we get an offer? And then my average, and then I said, what about this place? Because it's got its unique attributes, let's call it.
Yes. I remember you saying it'd be about 3 times more. That's what stuck with me.
3 times more, I was probably covering myself. Well, I looked through the numbers, and usually it's 8.
Yeah.
And I said it might be 16, but we did it in 14.
Okay. So that's not too
14, I
bad.
just was wondering.
Seems
'cause
a little more, but yeah.
you know, you don't know how many, you lose track of it. It feels like nothing, right? Because none of them count until you actually get something on paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's pretty cool. You might have started a trend. I'm sure it was done before, but with the second wave of COVID, people are they're realizing this might be here longer than we thought, and they're using technology. My colleagues are using technology, and that was great, right?
Absolutely. You know, and it's funny because you wouldn't have been able to do this 10 years ago. There was no technology to support that. The fact that we can buy a house, or someone bought our house, from so many miles away, if that was through FaceTime or, a remote camera some way, there is a way to make it happen, and yes, it's a risk, but it's the best way to do it other than being there. We're very lucky to be able to have that technology available and to be able to have things like remote
it definitely
tours.
helps. Yeah, as we're all socially distanced, I think just even having the video conferencing aspect it's a little better than if we didn't have these kinds of things where we would all be a little more isolated. It does help, and having the online, having our phones handy, having internet, access all of the time, it does make it a little bit easier. I mean, it is still COVID, and it's a challenge for everybody. But yeah, we are very lucky to have a level of technology where we can still interact with one another.
Just to let you know, what's going on in the industry now is that it's such a hot market with the low interest rates that people can not even make appointments. So they want to separate, so there's no open houses. So they're doing 10-minute appointments. There could be 6 an hour, and you've got 2, a Saturday and a Sunday. So you've got 12 times 2, 24 people get in, and other people are banging the door. Sorry, they can't always accommodate. Sometimes there's a tenant. So it's not quite remote, but you only have 10 minutes, and you live here. So the people who live here don't necessarily have much more time than you do doing the due
absolutely,
diligence.
yeah.
And you have Google Maps now. You can see where the shopping is.
Oh,
Everything.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah,
so,
I mean, we're zooming in on that Google Maps whenever we're
Every
looking at
day.
homes for sure to understand the area.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to say as a departing message to all the people that have really made a difference in your lives?
Well, I think friends have become family here because we don't have a lot of family. Like I mentioned, we only have a one cousin situation on my side, which we were seeing until COVID happened. We were hanging out with them and going out for dinner and interacting with them, and there was a wedding that we were invited to.
They hired me, by the way. Move them.
You're getting sick of us.
The thing that wouldn't leave. Do you remember that TV show?
But there'll be things I miss here, and there are things I miss in Toronto that we're moving back to that I missed when we were here. So, there's always challenges. There's always positives and things that you'll miss between making any decision in life.
For
But
sure.
you gotta think of it as an adventure and be positive and move forward, and change can be good.
Absolutely. I think for us during COVID, it was very hard last summer. Angie's father unfortunately passed away. And when we had to go back to Toronto for that funeral and make those arrangements from here in Vancouver, it really put a microscope on the fact that we're so far. And in God forbid those sorts of situations, it makes it as much more challenging as it would otherwise. And if you'd asked me a year ago, would we be moving back to Toronto, the answer would have more than likely been no. But I think now with COVID, the experience that we had personally last summer, an opportunity that came up without expectation to be relocated, are all reasons why we are now going back to Toronto. And we're going back to Toronto with a full heart, knowing that there are people and things that we
I don't regret it
miss
at
and
all.
want to see. But we're also going with a sad heart because there are so many people here that have been so important to us, and as Andrew said, really have become our family here. When our table was full, it was full with the friends that we chose to be our family.
You know what's really cool about listening to you just for the last few minutes? Just I kind of knew what you went through, but hearing it, it's very similar to what I went through, and it's sort of a macrocosm of a vacation. We're only here for 2 weeks. Let's get it all in. You take more chances. You took more chances with more people than you would if you were in your little comfort zone. A lot of people, they don't have room for many more friends in their lives. They've got their social circumstances done. And you're coming to a place in Canada where so many people move to that we're all kind of new here, and a lot of us don't have family. So I only want to bless you with take the same enthusiasm and gusto that you brought with you and you put into the community. I remember my late uncle saying, "Go and make deep roots, make deep roots," and I hope you do that back home, and you take those challenges. And there's other people that are moving to Toronto too, and you find the Cindys and Andrews there.
Totally.
For the Shuchat Group, Sutton Westcoast Realty, and ParkBench.com, I'm Arnold Shuchat with another Slice of Life in Richmond.
Thank you.
Thanks.